Hi everyone, my name is Phyllis and I'm the owner of Mad Moody Quilting Fabrics. Today I want to take a look at a product that I have in the store that is a real time saver and a headache saver. So we do a lot of half square triangles in quilting and they can be difficult to get done. They're time consuming, but all our quilts have some form of half square triangles in them and different sizes of half square triangles. So this is a product called Triangles on a Roll, and they come in different sizes. So you could look at in your pattern, and if your pattern, you know, when you go in and you read your pattern and it's doing half square triangles, you can go in and take a look at what the finished, you need to know what the finished size is, and that is the size after it's been sewn into the quilt. So the seam allowance has been taken up. So if, let's say for example, you look and they're asking you to do 150 2.5 inch finished half square triangles, then you could get this. This one here is Triangles on a Roll. They're 2.5 inch finished block. Okay, so these will finish at 2.5 inches. This one is 2 inches. Triangles on a Roll, just a different tag. These are this is an older version of it, and they've changed their look. So this is a 2 inch half square finished half square triangle, and then they have a 1.5 inch, and this one is 1 1/4. I'm sold out on the ones. I'm sold out on the 1.5. No, I'm sold out on the ones, and I think they do 1 3/4, but I'd have to look. But this is at the moment what I have. These are the sizes I have in the store. These are a big game changer. I will be making another order for them shortly or soon. So I want to show you how we work with these. They come in a big roll like this, and you would take your you take 2 pieces of fabric and you would cut it a little. I would cut it just a tad bigger than this width. And this width on the 2.5 inch finished triangles are 7 inches. So I would do it like 7 1/4 or something. And then you would make it at however long. You can decide that you're going to make them with 5 rows, 1 2 3 4 5, and then you can cut that apart. Now I'm going to do one with 5, so I'm going to just take my rotary cutter. I'm going to cut on this particular line, and you want this line to be accurate. You're going to cut your fabric this length and a little bit longer. Okay, and then you just take it off the roll. Let me move these over. Okay, so now you have that ready, and you would take 2 pieces of fabric. I'm using a tonal background off-white and a solid blue. And I would prep these, I would iron them really good, right sides together, and then you would put your paper on top. And I went and cut the off-white to the same size. Then you would take your pins and you would pin in these open triangle sections. So we would pin, and I'm just going to pin a few more just so you can see what I'm doing and where I'm pinning. I would pin down the center of this, and each time I lift this up, I will make sure that it's all lined up again, because we certainly don't want it shifting and then you go in and you sew and it doesn't look good. Alright, so a couple more pins. And of course I would pin here, and I'd pin on either of these end ones right here. So I'd put a pin here, here, in the middle, and on either one in here. So now, and then I go to the sewing machine. And the first thing you're going to do, there goes my iron. You would start at this point, or you would start at this point. You would start at this point here. And you would sew on the dotted line right across and jump over here. And then jump and continue. Jump. Well, actually, you could come in and do the inside one. Back. Okay, jump over. Inside. And just keep doing that till all your dotted lines have been sewn on. Now you have a piece like this. I don't know if you can see that that's sewn because the thread, you kind of can. I'm going to show you on the other side. So you can see that they're sewn together. Okay? And everything, all the dotted lines have been sewn. Now, there's solid lines. So you would cut on the solid line. So that's what we're going to do now. We're going to cut on the solid line. And I'm going to just cut some of these off, right off. And I'm just going to put this one aside. And then I would start squaring these up. I'd cut on all solid lines. This was the end, so it's just kind of crooked. Cut on this line. Take the time to cut on all the solid lines. Now I'm going to cut these two apart. I'm going to cut this apart. And then I'd cut the two triangles apart. So now I'm just going to do one more. Now we have our half square triangles. Now when you sew these together, you shrink your stitch length down. I brought mine down to 1.5 on this one. I'm hoping that's going to be small enough. So you would continue cutting these all apart and getting them ready to be ironed. I'm going to iron to the dark side. I haven't torn off the paper yet. So you would iron to the dark side like I did there. And then we would go in and tear this paper. And what I want to do is I actually want to fold on that seam allowance a little bit. And then you just gently tear your paper off. And then you have a half square triangle. Now you can go in and see it's finishing at 3 inches raw. So when you do your seam allowance on this, it's going to be that 2.5 inches you need. So you can just take your scissors and carefully cut off these little ends. And then there's your half square triangle. It is perfect. It's measuring, let me see. It's measuring completely square at 3 inches by 3 inches, and that will give you your 2.5 inch square. I'm going to show you another one. I'm going to open this up and I'm going to iron here. Now I like to iron with the paper on. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. It's whatever. And like I said, I have shrunk my stitch length to 1.5, and it comes off very nice. It doesn't distort anything if you're careful. And again, you would just snip these off, and then you have 2 half square triangles the same size. So that is how you use triangles on a roll. I'm showing you with the 2.5 inch, but like I said, you can get 1 inch, you can get 1 1/4, you can get 1 1/2, and you can get 2. I believe they have 3s and 3.5s. I believe they have 4s and 4.5s, but I always buy the much smaller sizes because they are the hardest. The smaller the size, the harder they are. So I've used this in a previous, I've used these triangles in a previous video. I showed you my half square triangle and how I sew the 1 inch blocks together. Well, this is how I constructed those half square triangles, is with a triangle on the roll, and they are finished at 1 inch. So when they're finished at 1 inch, I believe it's I believe the triangle would be, the cut is whatever it is. So anyways, this is 2, this is 1.5, and this is 1 1/4. And remember, those measurements are not the raw, it's not the raw size before you put it in and take your seam allowance off. It's after you've taken your seam allowance off. So this one here is 1 1/4. So when you sew these, when you construct and sew these into a quilt, they will be finished at 1 1/4, not 1 inch and not 1.5 or whatever. They will be finished at 1 1/4. Okay, so your raw would be 1 3/4. I hope I'm not confusing people, but anyways, if you have questions, you can PM me on Facebook or email me. If you want to see more of these videos, link down below. Subscribe and yeah, subscribe, hit the bell button. Have a good day and happy sewing.